The mood is somber here in Frisco at Dallas Cowboys headquarters as the Cowboys got bumped from the playoffs by the San Francisco 49ers. Now, head coach Mike McCarthy spoke yesterday about their number one priority this offseason. No surprise, it's fixing the penalty problem. Would you say that that should be what the Cowboys focus on?
Yeah, the problem is the how. I think it's really easy to identify, as McCarthy did in that Wednesday presser with us. This jumps out, and it especially jumps out because of recency bias. Whatever biggest problem there might have been in October, we don't remember that near as much as we remember the disastrous results from the San Francisco playoff game because of the penalties.
That's true.
It's worth reminding the Cowboys nation, the Cowboys didn't just lead the NFL in penalties in the regular season. The Cowboys lead the NFL in penalties in the postseason too.
Right.
And they might hold that lead for a while, even though they're not even playing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is absolutely the jump out. The question for Mike McCarthy, and I don't know what the magical answer is okay, great, now you've identified the problem. Now what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you tell guys don't get any more penalties?
Right.
It seems like he probably already tried that.
And he always says it's not a discipline problem.
Right, and he's wrong.
Well, what is it then?
Yeah, because I think we're confusing sometimes what discipline means. Undisciplined means can mean you're driving down the wrong side of the road because you're not paying attention.
Right.
It's not that dangerous, but undisciplined, I'm jumping off sides and then I'm kind of giggling about it, and then I do it again. At that point, my head's not screwed on tight enough.
Right.
There's also another version of undisciplined. We'll use Lyle Collins as the guinea pig here, just like Randy Gregory is the guinea pig for on-field silliness, including chasing down ball carriers and maybe having a chance to catch him, but instead, just for the fun of it, tackling an offensive lineman multiple times in the 49er game.
Yeah.
That's just silly. In the Lyle Collins case, we've got 2 years of him being undisciplined in the sense that from everything from showing up to camp, not this year, but last year, overweight, which may have led to the hip injury that ended his season, all the way to the most dastardly thing, the allegation that he tried to bribe an NFL official as it relates to his urine samples, and then something in the middle that I bring up, as Jerry Jones would say, I'm smiling when I say this, but because it's not evil, but Lyle Collins has a toll tag bill in Frisco that's being run. Lyle Collins.
They'll find you. The toll tag people in Texas, they will find you.
That's, again, maybe it's minutia.
Yeah.
Maybe. The toll tag people don't think so.
No.
But that's undisciplined.
Right.
Pay your toll tag bills and be an adult. And so those kind of things do plague the Cowboys. And Michael Irvin, of course, goes on 105.3 The Fan this week and makes the note that the way that we used to do it around here was fear factor.
Right.
You didn't commit penalties because you were afraid that the coach would do something to you. Now, we live in a salary cap era. We're not cutting everybody because they commit a penalty, and Jimmy didn't either. The mythology of Jimmy Johnson cutting people because they fell asleep in a meeting is false. But kind of having an attitude that you carry yourself with as a head coach that tells your roster, don't do it or else I'm going to be miffed.
Yeah.
Maybe that's as far as McCarthy can go and certainly should go.
Coaching changes and rumors are swirling around here in Frisco at Dallas Cowboys headquarters, specifically about offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, defensive coordinator Dan Quinn. Rookie Micah Parsons came out and said, I really hope Quinn stays. How big of an impact would it have on this team if either of the coordinators decide to go or move on?
It's certainly a lovely sentiment of Micah Parsons that he wants 51-year-old Dan Quinn, who is the hottest coach in this cycle, who as we speak here already has either 5 or 6 requests. He's already done some of his visits. I'm told his Denver Broncos visit, which by the way, the Broncos have been zeroed in on him as their top candidate for 2 weeks, that his visit with the Broncos, it was, how do they put it, just as advertised, meaning they anticipated he would blow them away, and he absolutely did that in a meeting with their general manager, who flew with his group of Broncos executives here to DFW. They met, I'm not going to tell you where, but they met right over there, and had they had a 3-hour meeting with Kellen Moore, 3+ hours, and then I assume a similarly lengthy meeting with Quinn. It's really not that difficult to come up with viable candidates to replace Dan Quinn, even though so many Cowboy fans, after knowing him for 9 months, think he's irreplaceable. And I'm not saying he didn't do a brilliant job, he did. Mike Zimmer has great ties here and with the Joneses, and would be fantastic and can run a similar system. Inside the building, George Edwards has been a defensive coordinator in this league and obviously runs the same system. Joe Witt Jr. is already in the building, as is Edwards. He's got ties both to Quinn from his Falcons days and to Mike McCarthy from his Packers days. And so I think there would be a tug of war with Joe Witt Jr. But one way or the other, the Cowboys have plenty of names to be a quality defensive coordinator. I'm not sure what they do on offense. I do know that in the building, again, there's two guys, Ben McAdoo, former Giants head coach, who is a trusted ally of McCarthy and a fellow Pittsburgh guy, for whatever that's worth. And then Doug Nussmeier is in the building too, and he's done some of that. So I don't think there needs to be panic because you're losing coordinators. You're going to lose Dan Quinn. You might lose Kellen Moore. Nor do I think there's going to be a panic, or there should be panic, because you're keeping Mike McCarthy.
Right. Okay, well, actually, perfect segue there. Speaking of coaching changes, head coach Mike McCarthy, his seat not so hot. And according to a lot of fans, they thought maybe they should be. You've been around the Jones for a long time. Is there anything that would change their mind about McCarthy at this point? Or do you think he's coming back for sure next season?
You know, and I asked the questions of McCarthy on Wednesday about his job security, and he gave the best answer he could. He's unworried. He's had his meetings, and it's full steam ahead. Stephen Jones went on 105.3 The Fan and said, absolutely. What hasn't happened, as we speak here, is Jerry going public and saying, absolutely. And so...
Which is of note.
It is worth noting, and there's a couple of reasons why. One, maybe Jerry's just that mad. Number two, maybe he wants Mike McCarthy to know he's that mad, that he wants the seat to be hot for a little bit. Number three, he likes the idea that we're all still talking about it. And I joke that he probably rolled over in bed with the lovely Jean and looked up at his national TV network covering sports, and the Cardinals had just played the Rams, and the playoffs are moving on, and the Lakers are, but the number one story is still,
Cowboys.
What's up with the Cowboys? And I do think Jerry likes that part of it. Then there's this. I suppose we should include the possibility that Jerry is thinking, can I get Sean Payton up here or not? And that is a romance, obviously, that's been bubbling for quite some time. I don't think that's the plan, but I don't think it's out of line to mention it, because that romance is real. In fact, in December of 2019, we reported on CowboysSI.com that the Joneses, through back channels, investigated the availability of Sean Payton, even as Jason Garrett was still working in his office.
Wow, very interesting. Lots to come with that, of course. So quarterback Dak Prescott now has a 1-3 playoff record, which is the same as former quarterback Tony Romo. Jimmy Johnson came out on Twitter and said it's a quote-unquote shame. Do you agree with Jimmy?
It is a waste to have a high-profile quarterback who doesn't win in the playoffs. So I think we all agree with Jimmy on that. What I take away from Jimmy's remarks, there's other teams. Now, it's no badge of honor and no excuse to say, hey, there's other teams that have gone 25 years without a Super Bowl too. That's not good enough. But there are other teams that have had high-profile quarterbacks that don't win Super Bowls, and Jimmy knows it. Buffalo, from Jim Kelly to Josh Allen, they haven't won a Super Bowl. Cleveland, from Bernie Kosar to Baker Mayfield, they haven't won a Super Bowl. So the Cowboys aren't alone there. What I like about this, Jimmy Johnson, not especially a friend of the show, but nevertheless, I like that he's still Cowboy-centric just a little bit, because he likes to pretend that he doesn't care, that this was just another stop along the employment trail. But for him to pick out the Cowboys quarterbacks and say, it's just a shame, I'm actually proud of Jimmy. It means he's a little tiny bit of a Cowboy carer, and that's good.
I love it. So the Cowboys finished the season 12-5, NFC East Division champions. But would you consider this a successful season?
I do think that if you go 12-5, that your coach must have done something right. I know that we all bring preconceived notions into our judgments of coaches and players and everybody else we see on TV. And then once we get our minds on it, like McCarthy's a Packer, or McCarthy's from Pittsburgh, or Jason Garrett's a Clapper, or whatever these almost immaterial things about a guy are, and we grab that and we decide that's the framework, then we have a tough time letting it go.